captain asked me, are any questions off limit? I said, as long as no answers are off limits, you can find. The trouble may come with people having my answers, not I having trouble with the questions. So please fire away. Thank you.
Pranam Swamiji. This is regarding the government not being in business. Well, don't we depreciate the difficulty of the government? Because as this government, selling Air India itself was a fantastic decision, at the same time a very difficult decision. The second thing is about tourism. We have so much to see, but Bodh Gaya, where I was recently a few months back, it's so dirty. And who is responsible? It's no government that is responsible. It is our own people. As I was discussing with a doctor friend of mine here, I mean, we have so much to see, but every place is so much of litter. And what do you see? And lastly, do you see the agriculture laws being taken up again in the recent future? Thank you.
So 3 questions there, sir. Just checking. No, but all wonderful questions. The first one was about Air India and the reforms. You're absolutely right, sir. It has taken, I think, 14 years across governments to finally get one, Air India being sold off. It was under the debt of 70,000 crores. It should never have been run by the government. It was illegally taken over by Nehruji from J.R.D. Tata because if you were to read the history, Nehru wanted J.R.D. to take over mines and some other thing, and he said, I don't have the time. And the next morning, Air India was nationalized. Such was our beacon of hope and liberty and free speech, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. But the fact remains that it has been the only privatization in the last 10 years. There has been money that has been taken from public sector units, or there is a word for it. I suddenly forget that word. Disinvestment. But one public sector unit is disinvested in, and the other public sector units buys those shares. So poor LIC will be buying Coal India, and so it just goes back and forth. The junk family jewelry just shifts from the left pocket to the right pocket and vice versa. And I'll give you an analogy. For a lot of people, many of them are my friends who are votaries for governments being in business. I want to ask you, away from the philosophical question that it is antithetical to Darwinian evolution. Socialism cannot sustain growth and prosperity. It has been proven. But I ask you, would you allow, or is anyone pleased when scientists repeat failed experiments? The answer is no. No scientist, logical, commonsensical, rational scientist would ever repeat a failed experiment. I mean, even the people, for example, if this Chandrayaan-3 had failed, would you have posted about it that, oh, it is as good as Chandrayaan-2 that it has failed, or be happy about it? No. Then why do we, away from science, repeat failed experiments like socialism and government state control? Why? What is this new output that we expect? Every result will exactly be the same as it was under Soviet Union or Venezuela or North Korea. So when in science we don't expect any sensible guy to repeat a failed experiment, why do in societies and in governments we keep on repeating those failed experiments? And as for those who say, well, there are profitable PSUs, but the fact remains that out of 1,840, 400 of them are non-functional, 10 may be profitable. But who is to know? If those profitable PSUs were in private hands, they would be garnering 100 times more profit than what they are. We know governments cannot run organizations. So let's keep it at that. Sir, your second question was tourism. Yes, what you say is true. How do you? This is a problem that is a multidimensional problem. But at the same time, if the government can put in a particular sector tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of crores, if a government, 21% of 40 lakhs, one-fifth of it, is being given to PSUs for propping up 6 PSUs. Imagine if a tenth of that was to be used for sprucing up Bodh Gaya, to identify Bodh Gaya, to make world-class airport there and connectivity there and hotels there and attract all. I proposed something many years ago that many people thought, oh, look at this guy, he's proposing to split up India. But you know where Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans? That famously has these quarters. Even Pondicherry has those quarters, but that has a colonial lineage. But something like Bodh Gaya, I mean, Japanese and the South Koreans would be more than happy to invest. They would be more than happy to take away vast swathes of Bodh Gaya to develop them. And then, have hotels that would cater to their tourists and so on and so forth, open to everyone. So there are views to do that. Ultimately, you cannot have very limited trickle-down government intervention of, let's say, 100 crores and boasting to make a smart city, when Nitin Gadkari is spending 10 times that amount in making a flyover. So yes, the problem lies both ways. You're absolutely right. We ourselves are to blame. But the government has to put in that thrust. And sir, your final question? Yes, sir. They should have been implemented 30 years ago. Many people said when the laws were repealed, especially from the BJP, that the BJP will try and get the states to implement those laws. That hasn't happened. It's almost been 2 years since the laws were abrogated. It's a compounded tragedy. I don't know the solution to that. And I mean, if in one sentence I have to portend the future of India, as it is absolutely bleak. Because you cannot have 300 million people at the mercy of so many things that are not just going wrong, that have gone wrong.
Sir, you have reached the guidelines.
Sir, no. Please ask your question, sir.
Sir,
Please,
this is Dr. S.R. Naik from KMC. My question is, has our democracy failed? One. And do we need a different system? That's all. Short and sweet question. Different system means, do we need a dictator, an emergency, or a military ruler? Thank you.
You really want Rahul Gandhi back, don't you? No, I think we are a functional democracy, despite of what many foreign media might say. We are a functional or approaching autocracy or things of that sort. Everyone says. And someone famously said democracy is the least of all other evils that are available to us. We certainly must not go towards dictatorship, absolutely not. Because even though in the short term, people may say that you have a benevolent dictator, i.e. who's thinking of the country. Sir, in the long term, there is no such thing as a benevolent dictator. China, yes, the GDP per capita is 5 times ours. But at the end of the day, the most precious commodity that any person can have, from the richest to the poorest, is the ability to speak one's mind, freedom of speech. That, as it is, has been curtailed in our country. If we go towards dictatorship, it would be completely curtailed, as we saw what happened during the emergency. For 2 years, we were under a dictatorship. But more important than that is the question I have been repeatedly asking. That the politicians have failed us. People have almost taken that, in their stride. Honestly, people have. And I can give you so many proofs that people have. Appeasement is taken in our stride. We don't mind that anymore. I mean, you have the Congress appeasing the Muslims. We recently had the BJP promising people who vote for them a free trip to Jerusalem, all the Christians of Nagaland. This is the BJP. So every party is doing it. The question is, when our highest institution fails us and our Supreme Court is failing us time and again, who do we knock? That is the issue. We can knock on the parliament. If you don't like this government, you throw it out. But if you don't like a Supreme Court decision, what do? How do I call for the arrest of the ex-Chief Justice who stayed the farm laws? I ideally would want him to be arrested for what he did. But I would be arrested for saying that. I mean, you had Mr. Badri, a very well-known political commentator and a publisher in Chennai. All he said was, rather rhetorically, that the present Chief Justice of India should be handed a gun and transported to Manipur to solve the issue there. The next day, 5 a.m., police barged into his house and arrested him. For 10 days, he was in jail. This is the country we live in. Still, we say we are a functional democracy because we have institutions that work, but for how long? We have to focus on the institutions rather than the government, because the governments, believe me, will come and go. The governments, all said and done, we may say that the government has brainwashed millions of people into voting for them. All that is rubbish. We've seen what happened in Karnataka. We've seen what happens in many other places where Congress strongholds one day become BJP strongholds the next. Ultimately, the nation would move on. The politicians are afraid of the people. But the judges aren't. That's the problem.
That's a forthright answer. I think Mr. Shriyan.
Can't a PIL be filed for the revival of these 3 farm laws withdrawn by the NDA government?
Can you repeat that, sir?
Can't a PIL be filed for the revival of these 3 farm laws withdrawn by the NDA government?
The Supreme Court stayed these farm laws. So if you file the PIL, the Supreme Court will throw it out in a day. The Supreme Court, rather, I'm being conceited here, only entertains the PILs that it wants to entertain. Rather bizarrely, it is entertaining the PIL or whatever it was, is deliberating on a purely legislative decision, which was to abrogate 370. The judiciary has no role in deciding, but it is deciding that. But when it comes to real justice that the Supreme Court must mete out, how on earth can it say that enough time has elapsed and we cannot prosecute the people who perpetrated the Kashmiri Hindu genocide? I think the person who said it was the current Chief Justice. Left to me, I would have arrested him there and then.
That was Mr. Jairam Shriyan, sir, who runs an independent magazine which comes out every month called Issues and Concerns. Very fearless and forthright.
Is he in jail right now, or is he?
Yes, madam. Please announce your name before you name and your affiliation before you ask the question.
Thank you, Ranganathan ji, once again. My name is Pranjal. I'm a fellow Mangalorian. I'm one of the youth in this audience. I'm 26 years old. I've already worked for 4 years in the Government of India under the Ministry of Shipping, and I have recently decided to quit my job. Why? Because I'm deeply pessimistic about how things are working, and there's not a lot of space for me to contribute and change the system. So in light of this, can you guide youth like me who want to make a change, who deeply love our country, but are not finding avenues, even being a part of the government? I'm deeply disappointed, but I want to do something. What is the way out? What is the way we can put our energies for some better use?
I've heard this question, sir, on many occasions. There are many young people doing this, sir.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. First of all, there should not be a Ministry of Shipping. There are... The other promise that the Prime Minister made, in addition to the government has no business to be in business, was maximum governance, minimum government. Right now, we have around 80 odd ministries. There should be not more than 15 ministries, to placate. And this is despite this government not having a coalition government. Imagine if this was a coalition government, we would have had 200 ministries. Sometimes ministries are purely created to placate a coalition party. We've seen that, before. So, where you worked, I'm sure you gained valuable experience, but ideally that place should not have existed. I'm sorry, I'm being harsh. As to the question you've asked, it's almost a profound question, because I talked about 3 generations. My father's generation, many of them are sitting here the same age. The only avenue was government job. My generation, the avenue was government job. That was less because Mandal had come in by then, in fact, just when I was graduating. So the focus shifted to private sector jobs, but those were brick and mortar companies. So there would be tobacco company, there would be FMCG groups, Hindustan Lever and so many others, But it was very limited, so the competition was very high. Your generation, to be honest, very honest, I don't know what job is. And I'll give you an example. A very famous podcaster invited me to interview me, and I went. He's about 23, 24 years old. He has a house, a penthouse, on the 9th floor in Mumbai, facing the ocean. He is a YouTuber. All he does is create this content. He earns money through it. He has a car, he has a chauffeur, he has a BMW. The chauffeur is the age of his grandfather. It was very odd. It was almost like a family heirloom being passed on, But that's the kind of avenues that are available, So please do not worry about the avenues that are available to you. That is one thing that if there is the only, without being patronizing, if I am to give just one advice to the younger generation, because my son is possibly your age, is do not worry about your job. Because the avenues are cropping up, at breakneck speed. You have unicorns. India is now a world leader in unicorns and startup and everything. The issue is that the government will start meddling in those things. That's the issue. The issue is not you buying a yacht or going into shipping. The issue is the government having a ministry of shipping. The issue is not you're going into IT. The government is having a ministry of IT. The government tries to shackle you. It's a nanny state. We have to get the government away from all this, unshackle you. And then you don't have to worry about job at all. Trust me.
Yeah, the remarkable thing is that even in the midst of gloom, Dr. Ranganathan can see the positive, but see the positive in a very realistic kind of way. That's remarkable. Sir, one question there, sir, and then there are a couple of ladies. I think we should give the women also a chance to participate. So please ask your question, sir. Your name first.
Although, sir, I warn you, this is an age of fluid gender, so to identify someone as a lady, please be very careful. Our Chief Justice will not like it.
Sir, I am KP Vasudev, advocate since 46 years. I have specialized in Essential Commodities Act and Agricultural Marketing Act. Just now you said something. Can you not file a public interest litigation just to see that these laws are removed because it is cauldron of corruption in the local area? This is one question. Second is, you said it is not the business of the government to do business. If I remember, that was a sentence authored by C. Rajgopalachari in Swarajya paper in 1967. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think the first question has already been answered.
Thank you so much, sir. It pains me that such a luminary such as you, who has been in this field, is asking a nobody and someone who doesn't know about this thing to file a PIL. But that is the situation we are in. And when you talk of Essential Commodities Act, sir, what all I know, it is even a bigger evil than having an APMC. Because if in an APMC you can at least have a choice. In contract farming in some states, you can go to businesses, Adani, Ambani, they have entered into this space. But Essential Commodities Act means that storage in one spin, cruel spin by the government, is converted into hoarding. This is what is the beauty of language, and there are many bureaucrats and ex-bureaucrats amongst this crowd who would know this, that the real power comes from the language and the written word. So in one stroke, if a farmer has been storing something through the ECA, the government can say the guy is hoarding and you can be arrested. It's a non-bailable charge. And that is why no businesses were willing to make state-of-the-art godowns, where every produce was perishable. It would perish in 15 days. You've seen those horrid pictures of farmers, destroying their produce or throwing milk. And just 2 days ago in Tamil Nadu, they had a ton of ladyfinger, just dumped it into the lake. All that is because they don't have a place where they can actually store something in a state-of-an-art godown. But then, storage is something which a business understands. You can make a state-of-the-art godown, you can store something in it for a year, it won't perish. But what if the same government calls it not storing, but hoarding? It would remove everything from it. It would arrest the businessman. So I cannot file a PIL, but I implore people who are in this field, and especially, sir, you asked that question, that something has to be done. But I really, it's just, we are so toothless and helpless. We don't know what to do. We can see the evil in front of us, but we are helpless to act. And that is the real tragedy, sir. Thank you.
Hello.
One question there, and then we come to the women here.
Yeah, I am Rajesh from Mangalore, ex-banker. 76 years old India is moving towards Amrit Kal, whereas 5 lakh years old Sanatan Bharat is moving towards Vishkal. Do you agree with me? First question. Second, do we need, I feel reforms is needed in BJP. What is this BJP? Bureaucracy, judiciary and politics. Third thing, 1 lakh Britishers ruled over 35 crore Bharatiyas, Sanatana Bharatiyas for 200 years. Today, 1 crore Indian Sanatana Bharatiya themselves are enslaving 145 crore Sanatana Bharatiyas. How do you address this issue?
You could take one of those questions, sir.
So as to your question about Sanatan Dharma, I've already said it's been, I'm absolutely shocked and saddened by what a politician in Tamil Nadu said yesterday, that Sanatan Dharma is like a dengue, I think he said malaria or COVID or something like that. It has to be eradicated. These are shocking statements, and they don't help the discourse, and they expose the double standards of the judiciary, when the judiciary has, I am a free speech absolutist, but the Chief Justice is not. The Chief Justice has upheld the scenario of hate speech. So when he's arresting people by saying that they are indulging in hate speech, is this not hate speech, where you condemn a religion just because you can? Can this person have the guts to say this about other religions? Absolutely not. There would be a civil war in this country if that happened. So, but to answer your question, sir, it is, as the phrase itself suggests, it is eternal. Who am I to talk about it? It has always lasted, and it always will. We are just, small specks who've come and visited this place, as far as that answer is concerned.
Madam, the next question is yours. Please tell your name.
Shall I? She has got a mic.
Thank you for that erudite talk that you gave. I was with a government university and now with Nitya University, and I can see the big difference. First thing is the bureaucracy itself. I think the negativities that are associated with any government-associated programs, by the way, I'm in the field of science, and so your first talk was very important for me when you talked about delays. So, being in a private university, I see the difference. I do not know if every university works that way, but for Nitya University, I think of something today, and within a couple of days or within a week, I can have the permission. I can decide to do what I want after, of course, all the deliberations that are taking place. Now, what stops the government from adopting strategies where the bureaucracy is reduced to a minimum? We need them, but we do not need them to become a hurdle to whatever you are doing. Having said that, you did speak about the land of missed opportunities. It's good to deliberate and talk about it, but do we have a solution? You think of an idea today, you apply for a project with the government, you also are aware, after all the procedures, it takes a minimum of a year. Your idea today is already raced across, and you have, in this own country, people taking your ideas and then having them approved by the government much before you have put it up.
Yeah.
How do you solve the problem is a question. So I feel it's a question of justice being denied all the time. Delayed, we always had it, but always.
Your question is clear, madam, and
Sure.
probably on familiar grounds.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for asking that question. So let me answer it in two ways. Number one, and I've heard this from almost everyone, I myself have indulged in this, that yes, you've told us the problem, where is the solution? Now, has this phrase ever been asked of a $1 trillion corporation like Apple? Did somebody, when iPhone was not invented, ask that person, what's the solution? How do you intend to become $1 trillion? The solution need not be apparent to us right now. That's the crux. Let us not have everything with us and then move ahead. But having identified the problem itself is my reckoning, is the biggest share of what we must do. Because if we identify the problem, and if we know that the government cannot possibly solve the problem, government should not be there to solve it, that's the battle won. Once it goes into a private player, it will either sail or sink. But that is the way capitalism works. We have to respect that ideology. We did not bring a solution. Some of the solutions that the youngster talked about a job. Let me talk about something which is very crucial to what you said, ma'am, which is the so-called phrase of leapfrogging. Now, I like incremental progress. Everyone likes it, especially the dentist, because then you go there, every 6 months. You don't want to go visit a dentist every 10 years, because then, I'm just saying it in a lighter vein. But something that changes a nation, its destiny, is what is called leapfrogging. Now, I am from a generation that at least has seen a phone. A generation previous to me used to wait for 3 years, the waiting line to get a phone, and that phone also would be bakelite, would be like that old ancient thing that almost looked like it's been dug up. It was an 8th century thing that has been dug up. And the youngsters would not even know what a rotary phone is. He's probably never seen the rotary phone. So back in the 80s when we were growing up, and we had a phone in the house that my father got after waiting for 2 years, we thought, how on earth will every Indian household get a phone? I actually thought it, because we had only less than 1 million landlines. ये इतनी landlines कौन बिछाएगा? ये infrastructure कहाँ से आएगा? And then what happened? You had the mobile phone. That is what is called the leapfrogging. The technology came. It allowed India to leapfrog this. We did not lay down 1 billion physical lines, but 1 billion of us have now phones, sometimes 2 or 3 phones to every person. That is what leapfrogging is. So we didn't have a solution then. We thought we are going to work conventionally, and it will take us 70 years to actually get everyone a phone in India. Within 7 years or 10 years, everyone had a phone. Like that, education. All of us now, at least our thinking was school-centric, university-centric. The education, we have to go to a university. Schooling, we have to go to a school. Look what COVID did. For 2 years, for 3 years, everything was online. This is what leapfrogging could have achieved. I don't know to what extent it has achieved. I haven't studied it in detail. But it has told us the future. It has told us that we really do not require 20,000, 30,000 universities to educate our population. Because by conventional means, that is the number we actually require for us to make our population, people who pass out from schools, to be educated to get degrees. So COVID has given us this as a boon, has shown us a way. We have to, of course, improve our online education, the way we go about it. We have to make it so much more interesting and interactive. But the fact of the matter is, it is only through leapfrogging and not by knowing the solution that we can move ahead. We have to be ready for it. And tell me one instance where government has leapfrogged. It has never happened. And I told you about iPhone. It was Steve Jobs and iPhone and those apps that made it leapfrog, and now every phone has that thing what Steve Jobs had. So it wasn't the government that allowed him to do it. Governments are frogs that croak in a well. Non-governments are the ones that leapfrog. Thank you.
So one problem, sir, is that when problems become conditions, then we get used to them.
Yes.
And then we don't do anything about them. We're pessimistic. But leapfrogging is an alternative. I don't know whether the decision of the government of Andhra Pradesh recently to have an agreement with Stanford University to provide online courses all the way down and all the way to the top to the students of Andhra Pradesh, whether that's an example of leapfrogging. Question?
Pranam Ranganathan ji. I simply laud you for all the issues that you raised. It was absolutely point blank what you raised about the farmer issue, also about how tourism is so important. You talked about non-communicable disease going to be the one that is going to be the future. Sorry, since I happen to be the medical fraternity, please. I am Dr. Chitralekha Shriyan. So, of course, I absolutely agree that, non-communicable disease is the thing that is of the future, not your viruses and your bacteria. But it is the artemisinin of the Chinese lady or our the lady Koke. You see, it is not the medicine that is going to be the treatment, because they're all lifestyle disease. And it is only, because, if you take the three things, hypertension, cardiac disease, or diabetes, your hypertension is really treated with your pranayam and your meditation. You don't need another medicine in the market. And even for diabetes, it is only the food that you eat. The sattvic food, which we all know, our entire this thing, that's the only thing that will change diabetes. You can be without any medication. And this thing is not read in the armamentarium. All the issues that you raise are very relevant, sir. But in this, the basic building block is, our schools and universities, they produce
Please
doctors,
make it a question, madam.
scientists, and Stephanian, like yourself. But, we don't produce citizens. So the building block for our future 2047 is that we have to produce citizens in the number one. And number two, any country can leapfrog into a developed nation only when 50% of its population, they become, that is, the women join the workforce.
We'll stop that question,
so these are the only two things. Actually, I'm sorry, this is just a suggestion. I'm sure, if you don't mind, it's not exactly a question. But this is what I thought.
We need questions.
We have interaction with you.
Yeah, thank you, madam.
If I just have a few suggestions to say.
No, madam. We'll stop it here. We'll stop it here, madam. You can ask the questions after the session. Dr. Ranganathan will be there for a few minutes after that, so you can always ask the questions after that.
I would love to interact with you, ma'am, after the session.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, doctor. I'm Vidya Shenoy. I'm a certified POSH trainer. I'm an eternal optimist. So I'd like to know what is going right in our country, so that I can tell my parents, my 80-year-old father and 73-year-old mother. So can you please tell us what are some of the things that's going right in our nation? Thank you.
That would be the topic of another lecture, I'm sure, madam. But today you chose to focus on the other side, but nonetheless.
But if I can answer in 30 seconds, because, I don't want to give the impression that I'm an eternal pessimist. Absolutely not. But I do realize that when a glass is half full, then it should be labeled as half full. So because then you can then fill it to the brim only once you know it is half full. As for the things that are going right, there are many. I think I talked about vaccinating, 1 billion people twice over in 1 year is just unbelievable. What Mr. Nitin Gadkari is doing, I don't call him human anymore. I call him an alien, because what he's done is humans cannot possibly do. He's built half the highways in 8 years that we had in 60 years. It's just, it's unbelievable. I think if you were to look at 20 years from now and see the decisions that people have made today, you would realize that, yes, I've cursed the government, this thing, but 10, 15%, it's got right as well. I take you back to that lecture which a lot of people have missed, that Modi gave in 2008 and 2009. It was a very prescient lecture. He said, I am going to create, he wasn't even the Prime Minister then, he said, I'm going to create a nano class. I don't know whether you've heard that. Please go and it's available on YouTube. Nobody had an idea. He said, what the hell is a nano class? He said, we only talk of the deprived class, in the socio-economic parameter, the lower class, then the middle class. There is a class in between. That class will have a bank account. That class will have a health insurance. That class will have a house. And that class will have a tap water. Let me first give that to them, a gas cylinder. Then I will move forward. So if you look, that was 2009. If you look in the last 13 years, that is what he's done. So revolutions are never brought on empty stomachs. Most of the issues that we talk of and that my book talks of, I know it might impact my sales, but I have to say this, are all middle class, upper middle class issues. The man who has to worry about his next square meal is not worried about government usurping temple control. He's not worried about the Waqf Act. He's not worried about RTE. He's saying, my wife is dying because there is no cylinder here. My daughter has got some disease because we don't have a toilet. Give me all these first. So in the last 10 years, what has gone right, if I to answer, is 120 million toilets, 200 million cylinders, highways, insurance schemes, 53% tap water connections. A class is being readied. Till 2030, this class will be ready. Then this class will start demanding answers that we are demanding now. Then what do you do? Has Modi thought of that? I don't know about that.
So, please ask the question. Now, there's a lady here who's been waiting for a long time. You don't have a mic? Yeah. No, but the mic will be useful. Please announce your name and...
My name is Anila. I'm the principal of Canada Evening College. Mr. Anand Mahindru had tweeted, now it's X, saying that this country was conquered by conquering the minds of people. The inferiority aspect was drilled into the minds of the people and people started accepting it. And could it be, because you are speaking about land of missed opportunities, could that mindset be still continuing? For the simple reason that when the Chandrayana 3 succeeded, there were other messages also that came in saying that the best of the talent of this country has left or gone to the west to seek greener pastures. I don't know whether that is the truth, and whatever is left behind is in India, and despite that, ISRO has done marvelously well. I could be wrong. It is the messages that I'm speaking about. So I'm not saying that I'm not undermining Mr. Sivan or Mr. Somnath or anybody, but my question is that still, is it possible that this inferiority, that we are not good enough, could it be the reason for this country still remaining a land of missed opportunities, as you said?
Ma'am, that's a profound question, if I may say so. Thank you so much for asking that. Let me answer it in a very different way. Let me answer it first by acknowledging that it is a fact. I certainly believe it is true. Because I believe nations weaken not because of their past, but rather by how they're taught it. And we have been taught a completely muddled up version of what the truth is. We have been taught that Newton discovered gravity. In effect, it was Brahmagupta. We have been taught about heliocentric model coming from Kepler. In fact, it was somebody else. So we've relegated Indians to being ignorant fakirs, as the Britishers did. But they were the powerhouse of knowledge. Now, but that is one thing. Myself knowing Brahmagupta discovered gravity and not Newton doesn't make India a powerhouse, economic powerhouse. But I'll tell you how it does, and that is what the crux is, because I've thought about this. Because when you eulogize failed ideologies and demagogues like communists and communism, when you worship someone like Mao, who killed 63 million of his own people, when you wear Che Guevara t-shirts without knowing that he was a homophobic mass murderer, you espouse an ideology that is proud to take the nation back. You espouse an ideology that was against the nuclear deal. You espouse an ideology that did not want the Narmada project to go ahead, that stopped it for 40 years, and 2 Supreme Court judgments had to come in. And now, Narmada is powering, giving water to 40 million homes. Where are those leftists and Medha Patkars? Where are those champagne socialists who were fed on this sepia-based association of whatever past was? So you're absolutely right. Past has to teach us something correct, but more than the anecdotal ideas of what this person discovered or that person discovered, past has to allow us to choose an ideology that will take the nation forward.
Yes, sir, and I think to tag on to the last part of your answer, I have a question here which came even before I came on to the dais, and that's by Dr. Kusum Tantri. What is your take on wokeism that is termed to be working silently for breaking of the so-called Hindu Rashtra, to be precise? How will this play a role in India towards 2047?
Wokeism.
Yes, wokeism.
Right. So a year ago, I didn't even know this word existed for me. But as I said, look, wokeism is, at least for us, 20 years into the future, or 15 years into the future. Let's face it, I just told you, we are, right now, and I say it with pride, we are a tap water, gas cylinder, toilet nation. Unless we do that right, there is no point thinking about giving rights to a man who identifies himself as a woman and asking that person to take part in a ladies' bicycle race or a swimming competition. Those are ideas, and most of them are junk ideas, antiquated ideas that are on stomachs that are fed, that are product of lazy minds. They are not ideas that are product of hard labor, who know what subsistence is and who have to survive for their next square meal. So wokeism is an issue, but it is not an issue for us. And I'm quite confident that the West may take 3 or 4 years to tackle it, and it must tackle it because it is actually destroying West from within. It is making it weaker. We will have to tackle it maybe 10 years from now. So this is not an issue now. There are so much more pressing problems that we have to tackle now, and wokeism is not one of them.
We'll end with the last couple of questions. Last couple of questions.
Yes, okay.
We don't have time for more.
Yeah.
Please, sir.
That's why you should not hear stories. Okay. Good afternoon, Dr. Anandan. I'm also a follower in different channels. My 3 questions. First question is, loss of opportunities, is it due to religion, region, inside bracket caste? 1. Second is, you talked river linking and water being wasted into the sea. But if the required water doesn't go to the sea, there will be an imbalance. What is your opinion on that? And the last one is about your personality. You talked about 3 generations. I am your generation, my father, and all the talk and the oration you give is very fantastic. Khoon boil hota hai. Like in the present generation, they are busy with the pizza, burger and torn jeans. What is your message for that? Thank you.
There is nothing wrong with pizza, burger and torn jeans. And I actually, looking at you, I thought you were from my father's generation, but sorry, that was in a lighter vein. No, your first question, sir, I'm so sorry. Yes, because of caste or creed. Well, I talked of 3 opportunities that were missed opportunities. And I don't think religion or caste or thing had anything to do with it. I talked about us being a vaccine hub. Then I talked about Lakshmi Kutti's, us investigating, discovering drugs from there, river linking. I don't see how religion or caste is associated with any of these. So this is totally our incompetence, general incompetence. If at all, religion possibly would be able to improve it, not destroy it. Way of life, not religion.
Yeah, just one more question, and I think we should be done. We can continue the discourse later on.
I am Mrs. Soumya, mathematics lecturer. So being an educationist, I just wanted to know, sir, NEP, is it a missed opportunity?
Right, that's a very interesting question, ma'am, and that requires another lecture, which, if the captain allows me to come back again after this debacle, I would be more than happy to talk about. But I've always felt that much more important than how you teach is what you teach. Okay? So NEP essentially deals with how you teach. We haven't really structured or gone into detail about what we are teaching. We had a BJP cabinet minister being proud of not having removed even a comma of the textbook, when that whole textbook should have been dumped into the bin. I mean, what do you say when a 50-year-old like me gets to know at this age that Emperor Ashoka was already a Buddhist for 8 years when he undertook the Kalinga War? When in the history textbooks I am told that because of the Kalinga War and the death and destruction, he converted to Buddhism. So many lies about Mughals, about Aurangzeb, about Babur, about Nehru, about past and present India. So more important than how are we going to teach it is what are we going to teach? That is my limited point. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ranganathan.
Excuse me, sir.
I think we should have...
Sorry to take your time. I'm Sharanya Kian from Surathkal. Can you share some insights on the future of Indian fine arts in the year of 2047? And what were the missed opportunities in the field of Indian fine arts? Thank you for your time.
Would you like to take that, sir? It's a little...
I might have to, we can have a discussion on that because I need to restructure on that fine arts, and we have, I think as a part of a culture, I can talk about, of course, our Indian classical arts, music, paintings, drawings. I think we lost it. But I'll tell you, this is not a recent loss. The most profound insight on this was given to me by Naipaul, the famous writer, who in his trilogy, India trilogy, the second book is called The Conquest. India, a Wounded Civilization. That's the first one is Area of Darkness. The third one is Million Mutinies. And the second one is India, Wounded Civilization. Where Naipaul says that the real wounds that India got was during the annihilation and destruction of the Vijayanagara Empire. And he says we were great before that, but it took a century to destroy us. And destruction of Vijayanagara destroyed us. We were never the same again, and he said we will never be the same again. Now, if you look at the glory of Vijayanagara Empire, what was constructed, what went before it, what was during it, the arts, the fine arts, the classical music, everything. It was the epitome of Indian and human achievement. And we lost it all because, it was destroyed. So, although our civilization wasn't destroyed, because an empire was destroyed that was a benevolent empire, not an all-conquering empire, we lost it all. We have to regain it, but how long it will take, that's the question.
So perhaps the lady asked the question because she knew that you're from Palghat, which is a culturally rich area of this country. But I might add there, sir, that I grew up thinking that 4 paintings of the seasons of India were done by Walter Langemer instead of Madhav Satwalekar. I just got to know it last year. Anyways, I think we are a little out of time, so let me say apologies to all those, many of you who still have questions to ask, and some of those could be continued after the ceremony as such. We feel privileged. I think I echo the sentiments of everyone in this gathering, that all of us here, sir, feel privileged to have listened to someone as balanced, scholarly, and passionate as Dr. Anand Ranganathan. May I also say that the Indic space in Mangalore is much richer today because of your lecture and your interaction. We do hope you will be with us again. So may I wish you, sir, many happy returns to our company. On a personal note, thank you very much for having me here.